Batman. It's catch-up week for me this week. I've got an entire month of Batman books that I've been going through over the last few days. I haven't really been on YouTube much at all this last month. Reason for that, we've got a baby on the way. Literally could happen while I'm recording this video for all I know. And so I've just had some personal things I've had to get together, working on the baby room, fitting in some, family time, friends time. Thank you to everyone who reached out. Yes, I'm fine. Everything's great. I've just been kind of busy focusing on other things the last few weeks. But this week I resolved I got to get a video out there. We got to talk about Batman 125. So much going on in the world of Batman right now that it's impossible to ignore. And with the baby imminent now, this might be my last chance for a couple weeks to touch base with you guys and let you guys kind of know what I'm thinking. My hope after the baby comes is we will be able to at least continue with the This Week in Batman as usual, but I just don't quite know how all the chips are kind of going to fall. So just know that if there's a couple week hiatus after this again, I will eventually figure out my routine and we'll be back to doing normal videos in one form or another. It's just all up in the air right now, so I don't quite know what to expect. So for today's video, while I could sit down and review 58,000 books, I'm not going to do that. Instead, I thought today would kind of be a good day to just hit the reset button. There's a lot of you out there who watch my channel, but every time I post a Batman video, you're like, yeah, I'm not reading Batman right now. And a lot of you have reached out and told me, hey, I'm hopping on. What should I be reading? Or, hey, just so you know, I'm super excited about Ram V on Detective Comics. I'm excited about Chip Zdarsky on Batman. Can't wait to hear your thoughts. This is a great time to be hopping onto Batman, especially if you've been on a hiatus. So I think for today's video, rather than just go through a laundry list of all the stuff that DC is churning out that's Batman related, the only book I'm really going to review is Batman 125 for you guys. And then I'm going to give an overview of basically like the 5 Batman titles coming out right now that I think you guys should be picking up. This is basically intended as a one-stop shop. You don't have to go back through week by week in all my videos to kind of know what I've been thinking about these titles. Instead, I'm just going to lay out, these are the 5 that I think you should be buying, whether I think they're relevant to the Chip Zdarsky arc, or if I just think that they're great books that you should be reading. At the end of the video, I'll wrap things up with just an overview of everything I got over the last month for those of you guys who do watch me week to week, in case you're interested in more details and have been tuning in week to week and want to know what I thought about the books that came out over the last month. So kicking things off, we absolutely have to start with Batman 125, the first of 2 huge relaunches that DC is putting out. This is the entrance of Chip Zdarsky on writing duties and the return of Jorge Jimenez on art. This is an oversized issue priced at $5.99, which is a little rich, a little bit more than I would have wanted to spend, but that does get you like 30 or 32 pages of just straight art in the main Batman story, kicking off this new era. In addition to probably 8 or 10 pages in a backup story that features Catwoman. So you're definitely getting your bang for your buck, I would say. I also want to take a quick second just to call this out. I didn't know this was going to be on the shelves until I got to the comic book shop today. Sorry if this came out last week and I just missed it, but they didn't have it last week. They had it this week. There's this awesome Batman cover with, Batman made up of bats that opens like a clear front acetate cover or whatever they call it. Really, really elegant cover with the Batman logo on the back, which is really cool. So if you didn't get a chance to pick this up, I don't double dip very often on my comics, but I'm a sucker, especially for like the clear plastic 2-layer covers. I just think they're really cool. As a matter of fact, one of the first comic books I ever bought was a Superman comic. Was it like Save the Daily Planet or something? It had like a Daily Planet cover, but then Superman was in clear plastic over the front of it. I don't remember if that was just a special or if it was a regular issue of Superman. I have no idea. But that said, ramblings aside, what did I think of Batman 125? So, overall, what was exciting about this book was that it really did have a clear sense of a new direction. When Joshua Williamson took over, obviously he was intended as, a bridge writer, coming off of James Tynion, kind of trying to find a new direction, but we all knew he wasn't going to be on the book for very long. So it was more about small tweaks, really getting back to basics in terms of the writing of Batman, that I found incredibly appealing, and I would have loved to have had Joshua Williamson on Batman regular for longer. However, obviously he's got a zillion different things going on at DC, and I understand why he's not, going to continue as the main writer. And with the entrance of Chip Zdarsky, the thing you really get out of this is a very clear sense of what the new status quo is. I think this book does a better job than DC's done overall recently, kind of getting right into the nitty-gritty of the story. We get a bit of resolution to what's going on between Batman and Catwoman, which creates for kind of a emotional moment here. I think they do a good job of sort of underplaying the moment. This easily could have turned into a soap opera moment, but the characters are very reserved people, and Chip Zdarsky plays it that way. But basically, Batman calls to check in with Catwoman, and Valmont is there. Valmont is in the Catwoman ongoing title right now, and it's clear that at least for the moment, that relationship is ostensibly over. They've been on hiatus for, a few years now. I guess it's been a while since Tom King wrapped up his run on Batman. It's sad that, that never really coalesced in a meaningful way, but it does feel good to have that really put to bed. And the fact that it happens just in a phone call, it's unsaid, Batman calls to check in with Catwoman while she's in bed with another man. Good dramatic tension without overplaying it. The other big status quo change we get in here that is really tied into the inciting incident that this issue is centered around has to do with the Penguin. The Penguin has taken on this sort of populist stance where he's specifically targeting billionaires. It's a very Batman Returns interpretation of the Penguin, which you can, really clearly see in Jorge Jimenez's art here, but then also in the writing. In Batman Returns, he's going after the firstborn as someone who was rejected by a rich billionaire family in Gotham City. Very similar vibes to what Penguin is doing in this story, except that he's going after billionaires' money and basically trying to make them donate it to the city to help the poor. Bruce Wayne rightly points out, Cobblepot himself is a billionaire, and there's a very, two-sided, cognitive dissonance going on for people who are sort of subscribing to this new interpretation of the Penguin. But in the course of investigating the whole situation, Bruce Wayne goes to a gala where he knows Penguin is going to show up. There's a great moment here where Batman is only partially in disguise, which is kind of a really cool design, although at the same time it's obviously ridiculous. Like, I feel like you would know that that's clearly Bruce Wayne, but it doesn't matter because it's so cool. And it's immediately met by another great moment, which is that when Batman goes to confront Penguin, it turns out that it's actually Clayface and something else is going on. Tim Drake gets shot in the neck, which I immediately was like, you cannot kill Tim Drake right now. They've spent so much time during Infinite Frontier, trying to reinvent this character, find a new direction for him to go. Tim Drake, it seems like, has been on the chopping block year after year. Every new editor comes in and they're like, hey, I know, let's kill Tim Drake. He's not a necessary character. Yeah, blah, 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 blah. And so to have him potentially dying here, I was really, it really turned me off to the book. But he does not bite it in this. He ends up in intensive care, and there's some really great, touching moments in which Batman is thinking about what happened after Jason Todd was actually killed, and the whole idea that, he has to get Robin to an actual hospital. It's not the kind of wound that, could be treated at home, but at the same time, he has to protect his identity. He has to get Robin out of the suit. He has to take the time to undress this boy who's literally dying in his arms to protect himself. And Chip Zdarsky really does an awesome job of representing that guilt in a new way, because we haven't really seen it from that perspective before. One of the things that this book is really good about is showing, not telling. Obviously we've seen so many books where Batman's felt guilty about the death of Jason Todd, but instead Chip Zdarsky boils that down into a behavior that we see Batman do, and we feel that guilt alongside with him, which is chef's kiss. Absolutely fantastic. After that, we get a fake out in which basically a doctor comes into a hospital room, says, I don't think he's going to make it through the night. In my head, I'm going, oh my God, Tim Drake is literally about to die. I can't believe they're going to do this. And then we find out that actually Batman is visiting someone else in the hospital, which is the Penguin. And the reason that Clayface was disguised as the Penguin is actually on death's door right now. And this whole mission of vengeance that he's on is spurred on by the fact that he has mercury poisoning, and his death is now imminent. In his final moments, he uses the opportunity to frame Batman for his own death by taking a cyanide pill, and now we get the new status quo of Batman, which is that Batman and Catwoman are kind of back at a distance, more so than they've been in many years now. The Penguin is dead, Batman is on the run from the law, and Tim Drake is on death's door. Overall, just a really, really strong setup to what promises to be a very interesting new direction to take Batman in after kind of a little bit of a wishy-washy couple of years. I really enjoyed James Tynion on Batman at the beginning. As it continued on, it really started to lose its luster. Other than Miracle Molly and Punchline before her, there just hasn't been a lot that's felt right. Like, I go back and revisit it, and it just, it's the frog in the boiling water, where, because I was in it in the moment, I was like, yeah, like, there's some things in here that kind of work, but some things that don't, yada, yada, yada. Now going back to it, it's like scalding water. I'm like, ooh, this is bad. And having the last few months with Joshua Williamson on the helm has been great, because it's really reminded me as a reader, like, this is what I love about Batman: the atmosphere, the attitude, the character. But Joshua Williamson has his finger in many pies, and he really put Batman front and center in a lot of different goings-on that have implications across the greater DC universe, which is cool. But what's great about this is Batman's new status quo. Like, it's not as much about the greater DC universe. This is Batman in Gotham, how he fits into the city, how he fits in with his family. And at the very end of the issue, we get the reveal of the titular failsafe character, who's only revealed in the last page. The way Chip Zdarsky fit all these pieces together, it really feels like there is a major story at play here, in which failsafe is now just a new element in it, which is really great. So if you didn't pick up Batman 125, I'll tell you what, you should go check it out. It's really, really good. If I had a complaint about the book, and this is a small thing, and I'm probably going to get chastised for this in the comments, I'm honestly not over the moon that Jorge Jimenez is back on art. I like Jorge Jimenez. I think he's good. I think he really fit James Tynion's sort of cyberpunk version of Batman. And he's done a really good job here in adapting himself to this new direction. Like, it feels like a fresh take, despite the fact that it's the same artist. But I think it would have been cool to get somebody different in here. And I don't have like a name, but in the spirit of really bringing about that new era, it would have been great to have a new voice on art, in addition to Chip Zdarsky on writing. And again, that's like a small quibble. It's not even really a criticism, because I think the art in this is excellent. It's just something I would have kind of liked to see. Now, of course, we do get a backup story in here, which is Catwoman related, which I thought was kind of weird. Because obviously Catwoman has her own title on right now, so why are you putting her in a backup story? But this is Chip Zdarsky's opportunity to, further the Catwoman story. It's clear she's going to have a major part to play as the story unfolds, and so I guess this is just a way for him to operate independently with the character without encroaching upon what Tini Howard has going on in the main Catwoman title. I thought that the art on this by Belen Ortega is serviceable, nothing super crazy to write home about. It centers around the aftermath of Penguin's death and the fact that his will is about to be read in 7 days. And I have to be honest, the cliffhanger at the end of this was better than the cliffhanger of Batman 125 proper. It was cool seeing Failsafe for the first time. I'm really excited to find out more about that. But it was a tease for something we already knew was coming. But what was great about this story is at the end, Catwoman is basically hired to find 10 people on behalf of Penguin's lawyers. They basically lure in with the promise of a huge payday, and then at the very end of the title, they reveal that the 10 people that they need her to find are Cobblepot's 10 children, which is a very cool reveal, and definitely a plot thread that has a lot of promise in and of itself. So it'll be interesting to see how Chip Zdarsky weaves that back in, and what the effect is going to be on Tini Howard's Catwoman as that continues to move forward as well. So, Batman 125, if you've been on the fence about hopping on, now's the time. Hop on, for sure. And if you did take this opportunity to hop on, let me know down in the comments below, what did you think of this story? Was it as great a read for you as it was for me? I'd really love to continue the conversation, so leave a comment below. Alright, now let's say you picked up Batman 125 and you're wondering, hey, I want to read more Batman. What else is out there? What should I read? I'm going to throw out 5 recommendations of books to follow up Batman 125 with. And it's a mixture of just titles that I think are great and titles that I think may or may not have a direct impact on the goings-on in the Batman ongoing. But obviously, all of these books kind of inform each other on one level or another, and so I think it's worth noting a couple of these books and making sure you're reading them, because you never know when little bits and pieces are going to bleed into the main Batman title or vice versa. I'm going to go through these 5 titles in alphabetical order. You may be surprised that a couple of them aren't on this list, and that's because I really just wanted to limit myself to 5 titles. So if you stick around to the final portion of the video, you'll see all the titles that didn't make the cut, and I'll talk a little bit about which ones were on the list, but didn't quite make it. Chip Zdarsky has been on a Batman tear for the last 6 months now with Batman the Knight, which I was picking up, planning on reading it all at the end, and then when I found out that Chip Zdarsky was taking over, I said, uh-oh, I better catch up on this, just in case it's important. I think in retrospect, I'm not entirely convinced that this title is, going to connect into the main Batman title in any real meaningful way, at least as far as this first story arc goes. Obviously, you never know. But this is a Batman origin story, and it really is just dealing with Batman, training to be Batman, and there's an emphasis on the people he trained alongside as opposed to just the people who mentored him, which I think is a really interesting dynamic, because you see these different people going through similar ordeals as Bruce Wayne, and you see how none of them are Batman, right? They never are going to grow into Batman. They have various pitfalls, various foibles that truly make Bruce Wayne Batman a unique character and a unique scenario that no one else ever could have become Batman, in a sense. So this has been a great read so far. We're on issue 6, which means there's only 4 more issues to go, but this was printed pretty heavily. I think there's a lot of anticipation around this title when it was coming out. So chances are you can probably go back, find the prior issues, no problem. I was able to go back and find them because I think I started picking it up with like issue 4. So I went back, got issues 1 through 3. It was no problem whatsoever. I went to like 2 comic book shops and was able to find them all. So definitely worth going back and having a look at it. And you never know when, a character from the past is going to show up in the present. Next up is a title that usually kind of winds up on the middle of my list when I'm ranking week to week. There are definitely other titles I like more than this, but I decided to include it because I think it's probably the most likely to be relevant to the main Batman ongoing, and that is Tini Howard's ongoing Catwoman title. We are on issue 44 right now. She has been running again for like 5-6 issues, so you can go back and hop on with like 38, I want to say, is where she started, something like that. But this is basically wrapping up the second arc, and at the end of this issue, we do have the promise of the return of Batman to the Catwoman title, which of course, with there being a heavy emphasis on that relationship in Batman 125, my guess is there's going to be some kind of spillover bleed in there that's going to make this a must-read title. The other thing I'll say is, this is the title Ron V was on before he switched over to Detective Comics, and I was super skeptical going in with Tini Howard and have been overall actually pretty impressed, and I like it more and more every single week. So assuming that trajectory continues. This is going to be a must pick up for me kind of either way. So that's why I went ahead and threw it in here. Oh, and by the way, if nothing else, Catwoman consistently has amazing covers. So if you're a cover buyer, you're probably already getting it. All right, next up with the conclusion, finally this month, of Joker with issue 15, we have a new villain front and center in her own ongoing / limited series. Not sure how long it's running for, but right now we're only on issue 2, so it's super easy to hop on board. Go back, get issue 1. Issue 2 just came out a week or two ago. I am, of course, talking about Poison Ivy. This is written by G. Willow Wilson with art by Marcio Takara. This is probably my new favorite title that's going right now. Issue 1 absolutely blew me out of the water. I believe I talked about that in the last episode of This Week in Batman, if you want to check it out. If not, it was the week before that. But just absolutely incredible art. Poison Ivy is on a sort of suicide mission. She's lost all of her connection to the green, and so she's just kind of normal Poison Ivy again, and it is absolutely tormenting her. She's decided to, take it out on the human race because, of course, environmental catastrophe is imminent. The grisly way she is going about exterminating the majority of the human race is extremely disturbing. But what's really kicking this title over the top for me is G. Willow Wilson's exploration of character. The majority of this particular issue is really just, Catwoman sitting in a diner eating and meeting various people and thinking about what it is she's doing. There's this great element of, she is actively killing these people and actually getting to know and like some of these people. So issue 2, another great read. Issue 1 was also fantastic. Definitely recommending Poison Ivy. Every single week it comes out. Penultimate book that I am recommending you pick up if you are picking up Batman 125 is going to be Robin. Issue 15 is very much a transitional issue. This has been one long, continuous arc, starting right back with Robin 1 all the way up through issue 12. We were dealing with this whole Lazarus Pit Mortal Kombat storyline, which I thought was absolutely fantastic. We detoured into Shadow War and Shadow War Aftermath. This is sort of wrapping up some of those plot threads, reintroducing a few elements of Lazarus Island before kind of kicking things off with a new arc with issue 16. So if you were on the fence about Robin, I still think that this is definitely a pickup. This is, that's right, Joshua Williamson. A really, really strong read. I think this is the best Damian Wayne Robin has been in a long time. He's a character that's hard to get right and hard to sort of further. He sort of gets in the same kind of rut because he's kind of a gimmick character in a lot of ways. And Joshua Williamson's the first person since Pat Gleason that's really been able to take that character to a new place and not feel like it's just a Grant Morrison gimmick. So for those reasons, I would definitely recommend Robin. It's actually a really good time to hop on. I'm not sure if the trade is out for this yet, but if it's not, I'm sure it's coming soon. Definitely worth revisiting the old trades on this as well if you haven't already. All right, you guys, last title. Currently a channel favorite. I've been talking about it for the last probably 3 months straight. As it's ramped up, it's just gotten better and better. This is not one that you can just hop on with issue 9 or 10, though. I'll be honest, you have to go back and read this from the beginning, but there is a trade out as of a week or two ago. I saw it came out, so it is available. I believe it collects the first 6 issues, and then you can easily get issues 7 and 8 if for some reason you can't just get them all in singles. But I am talking about, no surprise to many of you probably, Task Force Z. I absolutely love this read. It is so much fun. We have Eddie Barrows on art, which is just gorgeous to look at. He's consistently been on art for almost every issue of this, with just an occasional fill-in here and there. I don't even know if an entire issue has been filled in or if it's just been half issues where they step someone in just to help get the book finished in time. But also this has great writing by Matthew Rosenberg, who has put Jason Todd in this very unique situation where he's leading a team of Gotham zombie supervillains at the behest of Two-Face. Just a crazy concept, super off the wall. And I say this every time I talk about this book. It's the ultimate WTF book. Like, why does this book even exist? But you start reading it and you just have a great time. It's funny, it's sarcastic, it's graphic and gory. It's just got all the things you love about a superhero comic. If you like Jason Todd, this is definitely a pickup. And if you're someone who, kind of like Damian Wayne, feels like Jason Todd has become a little bit of a gimmick character, I think this does a better job than many others at giving him a unique direction to go in, hitting that tension between him and the rest of the Bat family, but moving past it and giving him a unique direction to go in. Another character that's really hard to get right, but Matthew Rosenberg is really doing it justice. So once again, you've heard it from me before, I'll say it again, Task Force Z, definitely a title worth picking up. Unfortunately, you gotta read it from the beginning, but it's worth the time and money. Alright, of course, that is only a sliver of all the Batman books that DC is putting out. I'm just going to give you guys a quick rundown of everything else I picked up this month so you know what titles are out there, if you're interested in them, and I'll say just a little bit about why they should or should not be on your list. Batgirls, the ongoing story of all the different Batgirls in one book together. This is a title that should be great with Becky Cloonan on writing, but it's really brought down by the art. It's just so cartoony that it just takes me out, and I just have a lot of difficulty with this title. Batman 89, what a fantastic cover to go out on, by the way. I think it's really, really good. I need to go back and reread it, though, because I've just read it so piecemeal. Those of you guys who are reading it already, it's been, coming out super staggered, so I need to sit down and absorb the whole thing in one go. Definitely a movie that would have been interesting to see, though. Batman Beyond, issue number 4 of Neo Year. This is a title that's been very up and down for me. This one focuses on kind of a long, drawn-out battle between Terry McGinnis and the Sword. Overall, this was a really intense, fun issue. Everything I've been wanting out of this title so far, so continuing on an upswing. I'm not going to say I recommend this one right now just because it is pretty inconsistent. Batman Beyond the White Knight. I am behind on Batman White Knight, so I haven't read any of these yet. They've been sitting on my shelf for years. I can't give a recommendation on this one way or the other, but I would recommend checking out Polist Examiner because he has some great thoughts about this and the other White Knight titles. Batman Fortress number 2. Best part about this is Derek Robertson on art. Unfortunately, this issue, even the art is kind of lacking. There's just a lot of empty panels. I don't like it. I just don't like it. The first issue I hated. I talked a ton about that when it happened. Go check it out. There is a promising twist at the end of issue 2, but not enough for me to really recommend it at all. Batman Killing Time. This was a great read this week again. We finally got an explanation behind all the different time jumps that I don't want to spoil here. I think overall it was pretty satisfying, although it's kind of a cheat not to admit from the top what was really going on in terms of the narration there. But either way, it left me excited for issue 6. Can't wait to see how this wraps up. Batman Urban Legends, we're up to issue 17. The first round of stories they had was surprisingly good. Second round, not as strong, but a couple satisfying books that kind of carried me through. Now we're kind of in between. This is all one-shots featuring characters that are going to have a movie soon, and they just throw them in with Batman. It feels very cynical, very cheap and lazy. It'll be interesting to see what happens with issue 18 when they launch a whole new set of kind of ongoing arcs. But for now, I feel like they've run out of material for Urban Legends. All right, this next book is one you're probably expecting me to have had in my top 5 choices. I didn't put it in there because this one's wrapping up. I'm sure we'll have a big discussion next month when it relaunches with Detective Comics 1062. As it stands, this is the end of Mariko Tamaki's run of Detective Comics. Another run that I really, really enjoyed. I thought Tamaki did a great job with this. We had Alien Parasites, we had Psycho Pirate, we had, the Riddler, Deb Donovan, so many great arcs in this that went in a lot of different directions. Like, you never quite knew where she was gonna go next. And I'm sad to see this ending, but I love Rom V and cannot wait for the next issue. Future State Gotham, we are up to issue 15, a title that I am probably 6-7 issues behind on right now. I read the first arc when it was Joshua Williamson, I believe. The first arc on this was absolutely excellent. They did a great job. I think that the art has benefited by being in black and white for whatever reason. I think it just pops a little bit better than it did when it was in color in the Future State books that came out now over a year ago. Don't really know of anyone else who's reading it to send you to another channel to get the recommendation on it, so I guess it's incumbent upon me to let you know. Harley Quinn 16. This is one that I'm always quick to diss. I'm gonna diss it again. This last arc has been probably the best of all of them, and now we circle back around to Kevin, who's a character I like quite a bit. It's readable, but again, I don't like Riley Rossimo on art in here, and the story certainly isn't strong enough to justify it on story alone. I Am Batman 11 is continuing on the upswing for me. We've got the introduction of Renee Montoya, so if you're a fan of her version of The Question, she's potentially going to be the police commissioner of New York City, which is interesting. I like the combination of her and Jace Fox. This detective he's working with is in hot water with the police after she shoots a policeman in the arm on purpose. There's just a lot of great drama that they've been able to drum up really just in the last 2-3 issues. So actually very excited to see where this goes. Every week this one climbs a little bit higher on my list. I'm not going to say it's a recommend yet, but this is definitely a title I'm watching really closely. Wrapping up is The Joker with issue 15. This is a title that unfortunately is going to boil down to being a dud. I gave this probably longer than anybody else the benefit of the doubt. This has been winding down now for like 4 issues, and now that we're finally getting all the answers to every question we ever had with this, it's just a matter of like, you know what I mean? Like, none of the big teases had the reveals that justified waiting 15 months to find out the answers to. So, you know, getting them here, it just feels like too little too late. I like a story that's slow burn, which is why I defended this one so much. But unfortunately, I think, you know, my enthusiasm around it was probably misplaced in this case. What I will say about this book is the backup story and punchline was consistently on point. If they publish that on its own in a trade, I would recommend picking that up. I don't really recommend picking up The Joker on its own in trade, though. Nightwing, we're on issue 93 of the Tom Taylor, Bruno Redondo run. The art on this is fantastic. I think issue to issue, Tom Taylor does a great job writing it. The thing that kind of blocked it out for me was the fact that it's also just kind of taking a long time to get going. Like, we set up a lot of different sort of plot elements, all of which would be interesting to tug on. But every time we pull on it, like, we're not pulling on it. We're just kind of like going like this. And this issue in particular, I felt like should have had a much bigger impact than it did. And I think it's because we took so long, you know, building up Heartless and, you know, paying off the blockbuster storyline, that when those two characters finally met and things kind of got heated, it just felt like a little bit too little too late. I went into this book really excited, and even though I kind of got what I wanted, for some reason I wasn't satisfied. So for me, this book is worth it, you know, for the week-to-week writing, the incredible art by Bruno Redondo, but it isn't quite in top 5 territory for me anymore. Batman Superman's World's Finest #4, a title that really started rocky and has slowly been gaining momentum, but this is a book in its own way. Mark Waid is just throwing way too much at the reader week to week that it all just kind of cancels each other out, which is why this is a book that, even with Dan Moore on art, I have to say this is just has become a non-recommend for me. Although issue 4 was definitely the best of them so far. Batman, Superman, and Green Lantern fuse into this one super character. This was pretty cool. I really did get a kick out of this. Once again, this title is reminding me of Batman Superman, the Jeff Loeb run, where that first arc, you know, they did put a lot of the DC universe and crammed it into 6 issues. And you even had a Batman Superman hybrid with that robot that Toyman built or whatever. So just a lot of weird parallels, but just done much better by Jeff Loeb. After this first arc ends, it's pretty unlikely I'm going to keep reading and reviewing this, since it's not technically like a Batman proper title. It's more of a team book. Alright everyone, thank you so much for watching this video. It was great getting to talk Batman again with you guys after a little bit of a hiatus. For all you new subscribers, I've actually had quite a few people subscribing to me recently. Thank you for joining the party. I hope you guys like what is in store. I will be back as soon as humanly possible for you guys with more Batman content. As early as next Tuesday, fingers crossed, we'll see. If not, again, it may be an additional week, but I am hoping to get back into the normal groove of just the regular weekly reviews for you guys. And then I do have a couple movie reviews that my new wife and I have done that just have to be edited and put up on the channel, so you can expect those at some point in the near future, as well as some unboxings and some other things that I've just kind of been putting off. I'll make a point of getting to those things so that you guys have a little bit more content for the channel. Thank you everyone so much for being subscribed and watching. Really appreciate having you guys here, and thanks for watching this video. Take care.